You've pressed play, you've come to the right place. Today I'm going to show you how to do your eyeshadow like a pro in my eyeshadow do's and don'ts makeup tutorial.
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me.
So welcome everybody. Yes, I am fresh faced as when I do my eyeshadow. This is how I start off my base with nothing on, no foundation, no eyebrows. My eyeshadow is the pinnacle of the look. This is going to be my do side and this will be my don't side, where everything goes wrong, most common mistakes, and this will be the perfectly lovely side that you guys should follow to make sure that you do your eyeshadow like a pro. So the first do is to make sure that you use a primer. Now I go in and I use my favorite Urban Decay primer potion. This is in the color Eden. The reason I use this one for darker shades is because it's a creamy texture, so it allows me to have a really good base. There are other colors, there are other primers out there, but this is my go-to. When you make a cake, you need to have certain ingredients to make that cake amazing. You need eggs, icing, or chocolate, or something that just makes it really amazing. The primer is that ingredient. You need to prime your eyes before you start any eyeshadow look. Don't just do the lid, do the entire eye area right up to the brow bone. Then go in with a beauty blender and just take off the excess and dab that really into the skin now, making sure you're getting right in there, in the corners, on the lid line. So I haven't used primer on this eye. I leave it completely blank, oily. I've washed my face and moisturized, but it's oily. There's no primer, there's no base for the eyeshadow, and we're going to see later on how that's going to really make it difficult to blend everything out. Do make sure you set your primer with a light shade. So going in with my Naked Urban Decay Ultimate Basics palette, this has the best shades for transitions. I'm going to go in with this colour right here called Blow. This step is so important. You've put a liquid on your skin, just like how you would with foundation or concealer, and you need to make sure that's set in place. You don't want your primer to crease, you don't want it to budge. On this eye, again, there is no basing, there is no primer. We are keeping this eye naked. Third do is to make sure that you go with a transition shade before you start using any kind of other colors. A transition shade is basically a color that you use in the color range that you're going for. So for example, if we were going to do a blue eye makeup look, a transition shade would be like a light blue, really light on the spectrum, and then you build the colors up gradually to make it blendable, seamless. This color here called Pre-Game. This tip I can suggest for you guys to do is to go in windscreen wiper motions and just bring it out to the side as much as you can. As you can see, here is the line of my eyelid, and that's where I want to be focusing that in. Now I'm going to go in on this side. The don'ts, I know, right? I know this brush is the bomb. I mean, I can't even get enough. They're amazing. This eye, I'm going to go in and use a really dark colour. This is something you don't want to do. You never want to go in. Not only have we not primed, not only have we not set that primer, we're now going to go in with a dark colour. I used to do it. I used to just do a fresh face, go in with a pretty dark colour, and I'm going to go in with this colour here called Lookout, packing onto this gorgeous mermaid style brush. I'm going to use a lot. If I'm honest, this tutorial is more about taking the piss out of myself. I used to do these mistakes way before I learned how to be professional with it. I used to do, this is like pre-professional stage. This is like learned stage. I'm going to go straight into that crease area. Oh my goodness, this is just impossible. It's just sitting in the skin. There's just nothing happening with that. It's horrible. So another tip when you're doing eyeshadow is to make sure that you use the right kind of brush for the right kind of technique for the right part of the eye. So I use this kind of a fluffy blending brush. It's really good. It's really tapered. It really helps to bring all of my colors together. Do go in with the right brush. Hold the brush correctly near the end of the nib, end tip thing. Go in with a shade up from the transition shade. I'm going to go in with this colour here called Faith. Dab off the excess, start on the outer corner, and I'm going to lightly start to blend that now into the corner, holding the end of the brush, sweeping it into my crease to start really showing that transition. Windscreen wiper motions. using your brush as the tool. Don't go in with a brush which is bigger than a tapered style brush. Don't use a dark color in the outer corner to start your transition. I'm gonna go with this color here called Lethal. I'm gonna pack loads of that onto my brush, which is what I used to do. Just thought, yeah, let's just go for it. Let's just mash up that pan and go right around into my transition. Now, as you can see, because I haven't got any primer on or anything, this is just becoming like a splodge of crap. I used to go really high up. We are just not having any kind of luck on this side. I was using the force of my hand to bring the shadow in, a really dense effect. Don't do that, okay? So with this look, I'm going to go in and start to now add dimension on this eye, the do side, with a small tapered brush. This is a Sigma E45 up into like a dome shaped. These types, it doesn't have to be Sigma, obviously you guys, it does not have to be expensive. Any kind of brush that's dome and tapered, which means it goes up into a point, is perfect to start defining your crease. Literally destroyed my pan. I mean, look what I have done. So going back in with that color Lethal, I'm going to use the tapered side of the brush. I'm going to pack that into the corner of the eye, bring it down into a V shape onto the lid, round and into the crease. This step is about deepening the crease. A bit more product, bring that background to the outer corner and then sweep the rest of the product into the corner of the eye. Don't go in with a colour that is too dark, i.e. a black. I'm going to use the same big brush. Because the colour is so dark, brush is incorrect, holding it too close, I'm just getting block. Ugh. So now we're going to move on to the lid. I want to try and keep this look as easy as possible for you guys. When you apply any kind of lid colour, is use a flat brush. You can go in with something like this, anything that's flat. Also size range and use something as small as this if you really want to. So I'm going to go in with my Too Faced side of Better Together, the Kat Von D and Too Faced collaboration, the most amazing freaking packaging in the whole wide world. I'm going to go in with this colour here called Heart of Gold. So I'm going to pack quite a generous amount of this onto the brush. You want to start in the middle and really press it around. Not go any higher than your transition, because you'll lose all of your work that you've just created. Do make sure that you go as close to your lash line as possible. Don't go in with something too big like this. I go with the same color from the palette. I'm gonna pack on a hella product. I used to do it. Like, I used to go in with a big brush for the lid. I don't even know where my mind was. You can't even get precision. Trying to build it up. I'm trying to make it really work, but the brush is so big, it's just not gonna work. Moving on to the brow bone. Less is more. Just use a little bit. It's a highlight. It's meant to highlight your attributes, not create a whole glimmer rainbow of, you know, just keep it small. Less is more. I'm going to go in with the Kat Von D Metal Matte Palette. I actually fancy going in with this real amazing colour here called Flash. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to use very light strokes. Go in with a brush which is obviously way too big for a brow bone application. If you've got too much highlight going on up here, just don't. I've given it no precision. I've just packed it all on. This eye is bad enough as it is. It does not work. You don't want to go in with all this product. Moving on to the lower lash line, you need to make sure that you do go in and you use a transition shade. The same steps as we applied on the top, we need to apply on the bottom. So going back in with the Urban Decay Naked Ultimate Basics palette, I'm going to go in with that same light shade, this colour here called Blow. Use the same fluffy brush and go underneath my lash line to give myself a transition of colour. Don't go in and use a black underneath your lash line. I used to go in, just use black. I have really sensitive eyes, so that's why I'm blinking like a crazy person. It makes your eyes really closed, it doesn't give you any kind of definition, and it makes you just look like a panda. Do go in and use a softer colour like a brown. So going back in with this colour here called Lookout, pack that right onto the edge, and then I'm going to use that softly on top of the transition shade. You can go in and use deeper colour, this colour here called Lethal. You can mix the colours together, just keep it subtle, dark but not black. Concentrate that colour right on the outer corner. This is just all block. There's no gradient, there's no blending, and it just looks really, really heavy. You can go in and use a black kohl pencil to do your waterline. I'm going to go in and use the kohl pencil for the don't eye, and as you will see, because I've gone in with the black straight away underneath with no transition. The whole thing just looks super block. Do go in with something like a highlighter for the inner corner of the eye. It really helps to finish off the look. Just use a tiny bit on a small tapered brush. When you do any kind of corner highlight, you want to make sure that you go with a small brush. Don't go in with a brush that is just way bigger than your eye itself. You can see it's too big and it's giving me too much product in the corner of the eye. I don't want it going all the way into my nose. I really want it focused just the corner. Do make sure when you're doing any kind of eyeshadow look, you do your foundation, concealering, color correcting after your eyeshadow, because then you will get any kind of fallout here can be cleared up. You can work really well with a blank canvas. If you go in and do your foundation first, then do your eyeshadow, all that fallout's going to just go onto the foundation, stick to it, and it's not going to be able to budge. So that's my eyeshadow do's and don'ts. I really hope this helped you guys to know how to do your eyeshadow like a pro. I'm going to go through a couple of the steps just so you guys can remember and recap on a couple of the points so you don't forget and you always will have them in your brain forever. Do use a primer. Do make sure that you set your primer with a light eyeshadow, something that's not really got much color to it, but it sets it. What this does, it puts it into place, it prevents creasing and caking, and it just makes sure that your primer is good, ready for any kind of eyeshadow. Do go in with a transition shade. Don't do this side where there's no primer, there's no setting, there's no transition. Do make sure you hold a brush correctly when you're going to start to deepen your crease, holding the brush at the tip, not too close to the end, otherwise you'll be using a lot more pressure. To add dimension to your crease, go in with something like a small tapered brush. Don't go in with something like this brush. When you're going in and doing your lid space, make sure you use something like this, a flat brush. It can be this size or smaller or a little bit bigger. Again, don't go in with something like this brush, which is obviously massive, and you won't be able to get any kind of movement on your lid. It will just be really, I don't even know how I got this color on here, but you can't pack, you can't pigment. When you start going in with your lower lash line, with this side, I went in with a transition shade. Same steps as we did on the top, starting with something light. This eye, as you can see, I've gone in with black only, no transition. And as you can see, it's really closed my eye. It's made it really small, really sunken in. I really hope this tutorial helped you guys. If you like these types of tutorials, the how-tos, do's and don'ts, then let me know in the comments box below and I'll think of some more, maybe some makeup do's and don'ts. I'm going to be filming an updated color correcting video really soon. I need to update my color correcting video. I haven't done one for like a year and I think I need to give you guys a bit more tips on how to color correct like a pro. Thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you again real soon. Bye!